Thank you very much, Program Director. You were singing something. Can I hear it again? Tokolo, Habamazio, Habazange Bambo, Habazange Bambo, Habazange Bambo, Habazange Bambo, Habazange Bambo, Utokolo, Habamazio, Habazange Bambo. When we stop a song, we say, Amandla! Amandla! Viva Minister Togo Titiza, viva! Viva Deputy Minister Stumo Dlamini, viva! Thank you very much, colleagues. Minister Togo Titiza, Deputy Minister Stumo Dlamini, the Acting Director General, the Program Director, the leadership of the department at all levels, because I'm quite aware, as indicated, that this is not only Pretoria. I was not sure when I was listening to the Acting DG speaking about the introduction of the new leadership, the new minister and deputy ministers. This looks like old. And I'm sure you will agree with me, it's new and old. But anyway, let me take this opportunity to express my gratitude in coming back to work with you, precisely because I know that you are a good team. The minister speaking to agriculture indicated to them, which I do indicate to you now, that we are confident and know that you are good and are committed to your work. The rest is for you to prove us wrong. We are certain, Zanele, that you are committed. But Babumdawen, it's for you now to prove us wrong. And so, we're coming here to work with you, a new team. I am here with a new team, someone who has a passion for the working class, who's been at the helm as the president of COSATU. Someone who is forthright and precise. Ubabu Stumo Dlamini. He and I are ably led by a very seasoned activist, a hard worker, a person when she speaks, you don't doubt what she is saying. She also has a shop steward voice. You can hear when she speaks, she reverberates. Whether as chair in parliament or addressing you as you will hear, but someone committed to the ideals of a democratic South Africa. And I can safely say that the president seems to be very, very sure that this department, in order for it to go forward and deliver on its mandate, it has to be led by a woman. you would realize that Minister Didiza is succeeding a woman who was leading us. And I can safely tell you that Deputy Ministers Dumo and I are comfortable in being led by a woman. And this is the Minister's Day. And so for me, it was to greet old faces and say, this annoying face is back here again. But I'm sure we are all back here for a good reason, to serve the people of our country. As I sit down, I want to remind you that the challenges that bedeviled our country for centuries, colonialism at its worst, those challenges and the fight against apartheid and colonialism was precisely because of the question of the land. And in order for us to bring a lasting solution to the problems of this country, this question has to be resolved. And the fact that the president assigns Umama Didiza to lead that process, it shows that he and the governing party has absolute confidence in her abilities. And so whatever we do and whenever we act, we must know that the cries of the people of our country are on the shoulders of this department. And so, if we were sleeping yesterday, in the past 5 years, it's time to wake up and do the right thing. Let us continue on the path of growing South Africa together. I greet you, therefore. Sizojika izinto wenolalela wenokhalela sizojika izinto wenokhalela wenokhalela wenojika izinto
Uthokolo Asithokolo uthokolo abamaziyo abazange bambone abazange bambone ayabazange bambone ayabazange bambone ayabazange bambone ayabazange bambone uthokolona ayabamaziyo kwathi angithi umhlaba lo nezandleni zabantu kunamuntu ophethe umhlaba ngayedwa ukube benikwazi ukucula bengiyothi uma ngithi thina sizwe thina sizwe sikhalela Helathatwa Mabaulete Mabauyege Sithi Mabauyege Mabawuyegu Abantwana be Afrika bakhalela izwe helathathwa sithi mabawuyege Minister Didiza, Deputy Minister Mcebisi Squasha, the Acting DG Rendani, my Program Director Ubaba Upule, sengine ngisebenza nayo le ndoda. It is the day, today we are here to greet you. We are here to appreciate you. We are here to instill, for those who may be on the verge of losing hope, instill hope. Here to say to yourselves, given to all of us, meaning us this side, yourselves and the rest of the staff establishment of the department, and the minister will tell you what is the name of the department. So she's going to tell you what is your department's name. We are all given a pivotal task. Deputy Minister Squasha has eloquently put it to say that this department is given, and it means all of us, the task wherein the hopes of South Africans for a radical economic transformation in South Africa has got to be measured, whether it is a dream, deferred, or it is real. Because this department that the minister will unveil to you as she will be speaking carries that responsibility of ensuring that every South African in all the corners of herself shall be able to say, we can now touch, feel, and see the change we want to see. Agriculture, land, rural development is what is at the core of what South Africa as a developmental state needs to see. So it can only be with men and women who are ready to champion and chart this new path. And you are at the focal point of it, at your different levels, different capacities. For us and the minister is to support you. Yes, there are difficulties. Yes, there are challenges. We also understand that as workers, you have families to take care of. And you are employed in this space to ensure that your families could also be best served. But what we are being instructed, all of us, to understand and work towards is South Africa comes first. Umamkhize Ndwedwe, umashongwe lapha eMpumalanga, lo ongakaze awubone ngisho umgwaqo la ihlala khona, so that azokwazi ukuhamba yodayisa ama-fed cook akhe lapha ukuze abantu bathenga aphilise abantwana bakhe, has high expectations of the change that the President of the Republic has announced for this country. And that task to realize that dream of that gogo, mkhulu lo mntwana lo, or orphan, or head a family, want to see that change. So it is us forgetting who we are. So siyabingelela nje, ngingakhuluma kushona ilanga ngoba ngisuke ngacula le ngoma ethi umhlaba ubuye. But thina sizakwenza ukuthi umhlaba really goes back to where it belongs. Ngokusebenza ngokuzimisela, we are capable, we are ready, and we trust that you are equal the task, all of you. We want to encourage you, draw some courage wherever you can, so that we put this thing and knit it well together. It is going to work. Good morning.
Babu Stomo, no minister. Something is going to go right or not go right. It seems that sonke singamahule engoma. Niyasazi eso siXhosa. It seems that sonke singamahule engoma. Andizuqhubeka, Minister. Because now I sang Ubaba uDlamini sang and I want to sing again. And time might not allow us. Minister was given a piece of paper by the acting DG. I think it's a few paragraphs that indicate who you are. And thanks for the help, thanks for the effort of Googling who the minister is. It's too limiting, that paper. Who she is here. And I'll tell you who she is. I can safely say I know her now for 40 years or close to 40 years. And the two paragraphs really are too limiting. I will not speak about the 40 years because I might not have been there, Zuki, then, you know. But on a serious note, I met the current minister in the mid-80s. I was not a young boy, a young man. Not a young man, a young boy. Yes. Actively involved in the struggle against apartheid. And at that particular time, things were not like this in our country. I met her when she too was actively involved in the struggle against apartheid. She, unlike me, came from a very difficult province, KZN. When I met her, she was not Didiza. She was Tokomsane, if you didn't know. Very, very committed, very vocal. But as young boys, we would listen to her, but very much appreciate the beauty. If it is like this 40 years later, how was it 40 years earlier? You know? We belonged, she was active in church. Forgotten the name of the structure she was active in. But at that time, when you speak minister, just remind me about that, the name of that structure. At that time, we were ably led by someone we used to call the Lion of the North, Peter Mokaba from Limpopo, in an organization called the South African Youth Congress. Peter Mokaba was the first and the last president of that organization. So that's when I met Comrade Toko then. When the democratic dispensation came into place, because of what I've told you, her abilities, our first head of state appointed her as the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, 1994. I've whispered to her that I will tell you how old she was, but standing here, I've decided not to tell you how old she was, except to say she was the youngest in that executive. She then proceeded to be appointed the Minister of Agriculture and what used to be called Land Affairs, And I was trying to say to her last week, we are now land reform. Phuma kule nto ka-land affairs. Zijikile izinto. And so, again, she proceeded to be appointed the Minister of Public Works. Usisithoko. She then became, as you have all been observing, a very vibrant, commanding voice in the National Parliament. You could mess with other presiding officers, whether you were EFF or not, but with Usisithoko, you could not. Nani must be ibona lonto. Yes. And now, she is back here. So she's somehow like me. She's old and new. You know? So, istori sakhe uyasazi. Uyasazi istori sakhe. She knows the story. So, watch out. She's a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. She has been serving ever since as a member of the National Executive Committee. She is also a member of the National Working Committee that runs the day-to-day activities of the organization. She is here fully as the Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform. And therefore, I want to invite you to welcome our new minister, Minister Thoko Didiza.
Isikhalo somntwana sihoyethu lamntana wena ukhalelani wena ukhalelani isikhalo somntwana sihoye wena ukhalelani wena ukhalelani sizojika izinto wena ukhalelani wena ukhalelani sizojika izinto wena ukhalelani wena ukhalelani. Thank you very much. Program Director Skawana, the acting DGs of the Department of Agricultural Land Reform and Rural Development, acting DG Rendani Sadiki, Ramasodi, and the two Deputy Minister of the Department of Agricultural Land Reform and Rural Development, Comrade Skwacha and Comrade Stumo. Senior management of the department, the heads of various entities, Office of the Valuer General, the Deeds Registry, the Land Claims Commission, and the entirety of the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, all the members of staff of this department here in Pretoria and in the various provinces, good morning. I also want to recognize the team in the various ministries, as well as the representative of the labor movement, PSA and NEHAU. Good morning. we've agreed that we are going to meet the leadership of the two unions after this meeting to meet and greet. Because as the representative of the union, while their responsibilities is to you as its members, they are members of the South African society. They are members of the labor movement. In particular, Nihau, who's part of the alliance because of its association with COSATU. So all of us, when we take those interests of our workers equally, we must make sure that where they live, the life is better. So growing South Africa together is our mandate. When we talk about the conditions of workers in the workplace, we should also remember that ours go beyond to also look at how we better the lives of our communities, which at times would mean taking particular sacrifices. We are here as new, all of us, even Comrade Squatcher and myself who are new. This is the 6th administration. 25 years on, after democracy, and after our first democratic elections. As I sat there, I remembered that June is a very important month in our calendar year. Not because it's during my birthday, so that next year you give me a present. But it's an important month because it's the youth month. And you said you have got 30% of young people in this department. And as we reflect on this important month, it's not because it's Children's Day, International Children's Day on the 1st of June, in terms of United Nations calendar. But as South Africa and Southern Africa, this month is important because of the role of young people of our country who sacrifice their lives to make sure that we are free. The generation of 1942, of Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and many others, brought in a revitalization in the struggle for democracy within the African National Congress. Tambo and Mandela ran a successful practice, but they said it does not matter that we may have been learned and can be advocates, if we want, of the High Court and judges as time would allow later. If our people are not free, it would be for naught. Walter Sisulu was an A-state agency who could have made his money and became a billionaire, said it would not do anything if our people are not free. It is that generation that inspired many other young generations thereafter, the Luthuli detachment, some of those people who collected many concerns and aspirations of our people that formed the Freedom Charter later. It is part of that Luthuli detachment that left with Oliver Tambo and started the ANC external wing in exile, who actually could have become better people and better professionals, but they said it is not for us to enjoy whatever spoils that we might have received from our parents if our people are not free. It is that generation that inspired the 1976 generation who rose against the system of apartheid and say, we can never look back when something is wrong in our society. And it is that generation of Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu who actually laid his life in order for all of us to be free. So I'm saying for the generation of young people in this department, that history is important to also remember those young men in the SADF military at that time, through the End Conscription campaign, who decided that we are not going to go and fight a war in the frontline state because we think it is not right. We need to make it work as South Africans. It is those students of NUSAS who merged with Azaso and finally formed SASCO, who said, black and white as South African students, we will never sit back when our country is going to ashes. It is those women in black sash who worked with the mothers of children who were in detention to make sure that they give the necessary support. It is those mothers of the children who were being conscripted to go to war who said, we'll never allow our children to come back as a body bag because we don't know what war we are fighting. It is those generals in the police and the defense force, in the intelligence, who started to say to the then South African government, it is important that we dialogue amongst one another. It is those business people who in 1989 went to Senegal, Dakar, to meet with the ANC and came back and say, these who are so-called terrorists are just like us. We can make together. I'm giving this history to all of us because when we are 25 years in our democracy, we need to ask ourselves a question. With all these people who sacrifice their all so that all of us as South Africans, we can start a new South Africa, have we done our better to make sure that we have an equitable, just, and democratic South Africa? It's a bit of a political speech, but it's necessary for this department. Because at the heart of the struggle for liberation in South Africa, it was the land question. Land is not just a piece of ground. It's about identity. It's about the heritage. It's about the economy. It's about social development. And therefore, when we understand all of this, we will understand that the rest of society anchors their hopes on us. And therefore, we cannot fail them. When I sang the song Zizojika Izinto, it was deliberate. All of us here will have to appreciate that certain shifts have to happen in our mindset, in the way we do things. The culture of work, the work ethics must change. We must be a responsive government, and that rests on me and you. It cannot be that a member of society will write a letter, send an email to the department in January, and only get an acknowledgement in June. Or get an acknowledgement in a week, but the matter gets resolved in a year or 18 months. It can't be. When the president, as the president of his party, leading the campaign towards the election on May 8, he said, echoing the manifesto of the ANC, let's grow South Africa together. And I think it's important for us to examine that statement. He could have said, let's grow South Africa as ANC. That would have been fine. But he said, let's grow South Africa together, extending a hand to all of us as citizens of this country, that it is our collective duty to make this a better place for us and our children. Because if we fail, we all sink. It's not Togo who will survive it. It's not Faniker who will survive it. When it sinks, we will all sink. I said earlier when I was the then Minister of Land and Agriculture, when I settled one of the claims in Northwest, I can't remember the exact place, I had met with the family that was owning that piece of ground. And I could see the tears of losing a heritage visible in the eyes of that farmer and his family, who for many years has resided in that place. I could see the pain and the jubilation of those who had lost and their family finally getting their land restored. And I said to all of them, this is the pain that as South Africans will have to go through. Because when those proclamations of forced removals were done, that pain ran deeper because those people never had the opportunity to choose where they wanted to go. They were never asked how much they want as compensation. At a stroke of the pen, they lost their natural heritage. The sad part is that the generations of the first beneficiaries of that process may not be among us today. Others might have bought the land and stayed there. But as we deal with the issue of social justice, some of that pain will revisit. I said one of the things we have to understand as South Africans, in order for all of us to work together, we must understand the fears of those who were advantaged before and the aspirations and concerns of those who were disadvantaged. And own up that process collectively as South Africans. Van Staden knows I used to say to him, you may be Van Staden, but I don't even think you still know where your great-great-great-great-parents are in Germany if they were from Germany. So Afrikaners are Afrikaners of Africa. They've got no other alternative. Ngabalapha ekhaya. Abantwana bomthonyama. Ngabethu nje. Okhuzini, you know. We even married amongst each other. Some of singabala abazuya ndawo ke. Asizubafaka olwandle sihleli nabapha. Onaidu, who might have come from Chennai in India or somewhere in Delhi, they can't go to Delhi now, they are here. So all of us from Delhi, from Chennai, from Punjab, all here some. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is none of us are going to go anywhere. But we must find an equitable access to the natural resources of this country, and that includes land. So land reform, painful as it is, it's a necessary process that we must go through as a country. And each one of us must help to make sure that we communicate the necessity of this process. And we have to make it work. And no one else will do it other than ourselves. It needs a committed cadre of public servants. Yabona ke bantakwethu, when we talk about work ethics, it's not just talk, we must mean it. We must walk the talk. If we are starting work at 7:30 and we knock off at 4, asingahlangani namabhegi estradini ngo-3. Let's not meet each other in the corridors with bags leaving. Let's not cheat the system. Let's earn the salary because we've worked for it. Let's sleep peacefully in our houses knowing today I've made a contribution. But we also need to build an ethical civil service and an ethical leadership. We cannot be seen as a government that steals from the poor. We can't. You know, a lot of people think stealing is because you get money. They think stealing is because you get some asset. You know, when you do something that is wrong, when you know that you are signing and settling somebody on the land that is not supposed to be settled, you are stealing. That's corruption. If you know that you are employing somebody who does not qualify to be on that position because he's your friend, and because he's your friend's friends, okanye ngugirl or boyfriend, that thing must stop. And let's not do something because we want to cheat the system and say, "Ngibonwa ngubani." Let's be truthful and have a conscience. Let's do something correct. You know, there are some people who have become parasites and know that if you want to milk the institution that you can milk is government. And some of those things they do because there are some among us who encourage it. When we know ukuthi nje amanzi awu 5 rand, I'm not saying people can maybe make a markup as part of the, but who markup got 300%? Aye. And we know it, but we just allow it because this is the state's money. And forget that is my money too because you pay tax. So when you think you are robbing government, you are robbing yourselves and your families. So I'm just saying, colleagues, when we say zizojika izinto, there are some of these things that must change. I guess it's nje. We also have to look at the pipeline of how we respond to things. I mean, really, A lot of you have been in this department and in the various responsibility for some time now. How does it take 6 months to just resolve one issue? And in that 6 months, citizens are just waiting. Our files lie dust. A person in the same passage is waiting for somebody a messenger to carry a file from my office. Inganga uyahamba nje uyisa file. We will find work for the messengers. But really, there are just some things, a culture that we must change. How do you wait 18 months for a dispute to be resolved? I mean, really, in the workplace? So you have unhappy people that are not smiling because bakumbile, things have not been resolved. How? It cannot be. Our bargaining chambers must work. That's why I'm saying safuna abasebenzi. Ewe. Because angibafuni bazibastoyitoyele ema-office. And those who are representing employer in the bargaining chamber must also work. Must find one another. You can appeal to the political authorities when there are issues that you can't find one another. We have frameworks. The Labor Relations Act. It's there to guide us. But let's make sure that these structures are functional. Yabona ke, Comrade Dumo comes from the labor movement. Siyazi ukuthi ninama shop steward meetings and whatever. Hayi kabi. Not during working hours. Basebenzi bam, leadership yami yabasebenzi, akuzofanele sibone isikhathi. Ngalesi sikhathi that we must grow South Africa, let's use it to grow South Africa. I'm not saying you can't find time, negotiate. Uzoba every day in a shop steward cancel. Ni meeting ni how and then umsebenzi ungahambi. Hayi kabi. Ngithinta indaba enyakazisa igazi, but it's necessary. You know, between the three of us, you get what you see. Asizunkhuluma behind your backs. Sawubeka nje. And if we need to engage, let's engage. Hayi kabi kodwa. Restitution Commission. Unless things had changed, there was something called Section 42D, an amendment that was made in the restitution legislation to enable the administrative settlement of the claims if there are no disputes. How do we still remain with such a long pipeline? How? Ikoni hari South Africa. Land reform. You have got so much state land. But do we have land administrators? It's an issue acting DG and others we need to deal with. You can't not have a land administrating system that's functional. Land administrators of this department at the tips of their hands must be able to say, Minister, we've got 100 state land, there is mang that is settled here, upatali rent, akapatali rent, unalelizuna, not ungitshela ukuthi usayobheka. Cha. Deeds register. Baphi. Nah. I hope things are changing. During the then time, you would know, we had a challenge where, when we were dealing with foreign land ownership, we were all shocked that we have got so many foreigners owning land. But the truth was different. A majority of those so-called foreigners were people in the Transkei, Ciskei, Venda, Gazankulu. No, it's true. Because when they were in the then South Africa, they were independent state and self-governing territories. What I'm saying is that Land Registry will need to look at a way in which our data can speak to our reality. But also our data must be able to do the profiling that can tell me at the click of a button how many women have got access to land, how have we shifted in terms of land ownership, not only to count what the state has delivered. Some of you might have money to buy a farm, but when you calculate, you don't calculate yourselves because you only deal with the data that comes from land reform. Because otherwise, how do we deal with the picture of equity and how that is changing? So I'm saying, data yethu nje sizawuke sithi ukukhuluma. I hope we do have a government that is functional. Sonke siyakwazi ukusebenzisa computer. No, I'm asking. Because I don't want to assume. Some of the processes, you can't have a president speaking about the 4th industrial revolution, but some of us are still using a typewriter. So there are some of these processes that will enable us to also communicate fast, all of us in the department, and be able to resolve some of the problems. I was saying to the acting DGs, we'll have to even find a way of reducing these briefcases going to Cape Town every day. Singakhuluma nge-video conferencing. So we'll just have to find a way of being a smart department. Deputy Minister said something very fundamental. You know, I was saying one of the challenges that we have is a clear articulation of what is our rural development strategy benchmark. Yabonuma City, we're talking about a developed rural. What are we talking about? What are those indicators that we can say, if village yakwamsane, emtubatuba, haike, is it developed? And there are certain elements that Deputy Minister raised. Roads, water. Those of you who might have studied how Thailand revolutionized their agriculture, it had nothing to do with extension service. It had nothing to do with the money that government gave. It was about roads. They opened the country. The agri-industry followed. And that was a game changer. Can you imagine? Just imagine a rural village of South Africa that looks like Bavaria in Germany. I always say, that is my lovely village. It's very agricultural, but they have their luxury sedans, Mercedes. They wake up and go to work in their farms, have their associations and a little golf there, and the greenery. I mean, really, That's my vision of some rural. But I don't know. I'm just saying that we must have a little bit of a template, which we can say, when we at least cover these 5 indicators in rural South Africa, we will say we've done our mark. I'm coming now to a very important part. I'm sure you heard earlier, I said we've got acting directors general of agricultural land reform and rural development. Different than the past, in the reorganization of the state, the merging of ministries is going to cascade to merging of departments. So there will be a reorganization of the departments. But I don't want us to panic. We will collectively all find a way in which we make this thing work. When I was receiving presentations from your department, I actually found that gradually over the years you have veered towards agriculture. There's many land development, farmer support, and agri-parks, and some of us don't have the capacity to make those things work because we're not agriculturalists. Not your fault. But we have to find this thing work now. How are we reorganizing this new Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Land Claims Commission as one department? But let's use it as an opportunity instead of a difficulty. You know, when I was in public works, I said to the property owners, there is no more space of growing in the cities. If I were you, I would look to what is perceived as a problem, the townships and the villages, because there's no growth of property in the city anymore. The growth areas are outside the city. And there was one person who was clever enough during that time, Sisangeblan. He did what a number of people thought it couldn't be done. He went to the Buffalo City municipality, bought the land kwa Unit 6 eMdantsane, built a massive mall with Istekino or Metro, I can't remember which is which, but Baisco Pakati. And he did something creative. Within the mall, he had a taxi rank. He had a garage. So he brought all systems together. And I can tell you, he's milking the dollars. And in that transition period, those of you who come from the Eastern Cape, in East London in particular, Vincent Mall nearly collapsed. Because a majority of people who used to go to Vincent Mall were actually from eMdantsane. So when the development in eMdantsane happened, the feet did not proceed to Vincent. The cost of transport was cheaper for abantu baseMdantsane. They could go where Unit 6 only spend 5 rand without spending imali ye delivery. So I'm saying, instead of going back to our offices and crying, organization, where will it put me? Let's think creatively. What is the new business model for delivery on this new department that we have to create? Let's all think. Let's send a suggestion, you know, I'm sure we'll have a suggestion box next to the DG's office of what we actually think this thing can become. so that in the 6 months working with public service and administration, we can also get your input on what you think we might need to do to have a machinery that works. Yabona, both you and agriculture have got a challenge. A challenge like in 1994. As we were trying to write the final constitution, we had to make the country work. We didn't have to stop everything and say, hey, we're a constituent assembly, we're still writing a constitution. What I'm saying, planting season here in September, it's not going to wait for us and your reorganization. We must make that state land to be planted, to give confidence to society, but also to deal with the food security of our country, and to make sure that we contribute as we have been doing, but now even more, on GDP of the country. So I'm saying, while all the cacophony of the noise happens there, we must do the things that must be busy, just sebenze. But one thing I like about Zulu people when they are coughing, how are you? Hatha isihamba nazo. We are going with it. Sizohamba nazo ke nathi. Le reorganization izosithola nje kodwa sibusy. Sisebenza. Because we're here to work. Ours is to make sure that we grow this South Africa together. But we must all make sure that we work as a machinery. Angezwa ke ukuthi what you are going to do for the Youth Month. I don't know youth yethu ukuthi nje ihleli lele. Angazi. The women in August, I don't know what is it that they are going to do and give confidence to the women of this country and access to land. I don't know. DG, acting DG and the program director Skawana, you prided yourself by 52%. Very happy. But tomorrow I want to know where is that 52% located. Because it may be good 52%, but it's lying very low where we don't make decisions. I was saying, when I met the DGs, I said I did something when I was a Minister of Agriculture in the early 2000s. August 9, I took all women in the department, even a receptionist ne clean. It was on a Friday. I said we are going to have Women's Day and have fun in Rittondale Park. And let the men run the department. They actually felt good and said, yeah, Minister. I said, sharp. Monday, I had a lot of people knocking at my door. Hey, Minister, no, it was difficult. I said, what happened? You know, we didn't know how to operate the switchboard. Yeah, you know. I said, wow, that's nice. No, Minister, it wasn't nice. I said, I hope you now understand the contribution that women make in making these organizations function. Because for the first time, they had to operate a switchboard, take messages, still become very, you know, executive, make themselves coffee, and. I don't want to do that now. We might just have a golf day. But in earnest, I'm just saying that the issue of youth and women empowerment can't be lip service. We need to think seriously, both in terms of our policies as well as our legislative instrument. How do they facilitate that growth? But in doing so, we need to think about gender mainstreaming in the serious sense. We don't want to make sure that men, young and old, don't find their space in our society, because that will be wrong. When we talk about gender equality, we want to reach a space where both women and men in our society can make this country function. Not one, but both. We talk about women's empowerment and youth empowerment because for a long time, they actually were disadvantaged. They are catching up. But in that catching up, we must not make a mistake that we actually say men have no space in our society. Even when we talk about gender-based violence, we have a responsibility to breed a society that can respect and appreciate both men and women. And if we sithi men are trash, because bangotata bethu, they are our brothers, they are our sons. But we can't also not keep quiet when they do wrong. That is why I'm saying collectively, we have got a responsibility to build a non-racial, non-sexist society as we grow this South Africa together. So for us today, we wanted to say hello. Hi. But we wanted to also give a little bit of a heads up of what we need to do in changing izinto. We will continue to meet with you in different directorates and deal with the details. But for now, we just thought it was necessary to just greet you so that you don't see us on TV, in Parliament, and say how. And when your children ask you, is that your minister or deputy minister? Oh, yes. So, unjani? I don't know, we just see. And we want to know, Koke, as my last parting shot, a happiness index, itukpagam. Yes, we were singing for, we're a happy trio. So we want a happy team. And with those few words, I'd like to say thank you very much for welcoming us in this department.